In part 3, we look at corporate governance, and we will look at corporate governance in a lot more detail in later lessons, but this gives you a flavour at this point in terms of our leadership subject area. So, corporate governance refers to the way an organisation is directed and controlled by its senior leaders. So that's what it refers to. So there is a systematic way, in a sense, that an organisation can now operate by its senior leaders, in particular its board of directors. However, corporate governance issues can arise from what we call the agency problem. So the agency problem is that in many organisations, the people who have day-to-day control of the company, which would be seen as the management or the directors, and the owners of the company, who are the shareholders, are typically not the same people. Now, in large listed companies, this is probably very typical. So in listed companies, you have shareholders who could be individuals or institutions across the world who may own shares in a listed company in a particular country. They do not have any direct involvement in the running of the company, but they own the shares in that company. Then you will have a local board of directors or management team to run the company on the shareholders' behalf. In smaller organizations, that difference is less apparent. So in smaller organizations, the directors and the owners tend to be the same people. Okay, so in much smaller businesses. So the agency problem is more of a problem for larger companies and particularly large listed companies. But just to be aware from a corporate governance point of view. Management should act in the best interest of shareholders, but may be tempted to make decisions that are in their own best interests. So that's when you have boards of directors who are meant to be acting in the interests of their shareholders, but actually ends up acting in a self-interest and making decisions that will benefit themselves personally. And that's what we call the agency problem. Okay. It does say here it can apply to public and private owned companies. It can do more likely in public listed companies. So in terms of ethical values in corporate governance, similar terminology to what we've used so far. We would expect from a corporate governance point of view, people to act with honesty, to be fair, to act in a team orientation, be responsible for their decisions, be respectful, and to lead by example. So just to make the distinction there between leadership and management, which is important from a corporate governance point of view as well. From a leadership perspective, the leader of a group can emerge informally. Okay, so because what happens is leaders generally will look to inspire people, to motivate people, to influence people. So that could be a formal role, or it actually could be an informal role, that someone emerges and acts in that way and is quite inspiring, motivating, and helps influence others. Management, however, is generally employed by the organization and given some form of formal authority over a group of employees to direct their work. So that's a different role. Okay, managers are generally concerned with, therefore, planning, organizing, controlling. So planning work loads, organizing their staff and their resources to fulfill their work commitments, and then monitoring and controlling what actually happens and intervening where necessary. So the key difference is a leader can be a manager, but a manager is not necessarily a leader. And if a manager can influence employees without using formal authority, they are probably demonstrating their own leadership qualities. All right, so this is where in an organization, if you have a manager who is influencing and motivating others, that's probably someone who needs to be promoted into a more senior leadership role. Employees will follow a leader because they want to. They will follow a manager because they have to. Okay, so that, again, hopefully that demonstrates the kind of key difference between a leadership and management role.